At the beginning of the movie, a girl named Teresa sits by the water at a lake house, listening to music. Suddenly, a man named Caleb appears behind her. Caleb starts teasing her, causing Teresa to become angry. She suggests he check on his girlfriend, Jessica, who has been feeling sick. Caleb reassures her that he's already given Jessica medicine and she's resting, so there's no need to worry. Teresa heads into the cabin and sees Jessica sleeping in bed. She settles into a nearby chair and quietly begins reading the Gothic classic Wuthering Heights. Out of nowhere, Jessica starts reciting lines from the book in a distorted voice. Teresa is startled to see Jessica sitting up in the bed, reciting the eerie lines. Moments later, Jessica stumbles to the ground, prompting Teresa to rush over to check on her friend. Out of nowhere, a possessed Jessica viciously rips the scalp from Teresa's head. Despite her severe injuries, Teresa crawls towards the dock to alert Caleb about the horrifying incident. Caleb is shocked by Teresa's state, and chaos ensues as Jessica grabs a drone, uses it to cut her own face, and then plunges into the water. Perplexed and desperate to save her, Caleb jumps into the lake. However, he is brutally mutilated underwater. Jessica then emerges ominously from the depths, throwing Caleb's dismembered head towards Teresa. The scene shifts to a day earlier, revealing the events that led up to the horrifying incident. At a nightclub, a woman named Beth nervously takes a pregnancy test in the bathroom, and when it turns out positive, she becomes visibly worried. Beth decides to seek advice from her sister Ellie, whom she hasn't been close with for a long time. Ellie lives in an old apartment in Los Angeles, where she works as a tattoo artist and raises her 3 children: Danny, an aspiring DJ, Bridget, the sensible daughter, and the youngest, Cassie. Just then, Bridget receives a visit from her neighbor Jake, who has a crush on her, but she declines his invitation to see A Nightmare on Elm Street. Beth arrives at Ellie's place, and it becomes clear that the sisters are estranged and have a troubled relationship. Beth hands out gifts to everyone, but when she presents a gift for their father, it upsets everyone. Ellie sends her 3 children out to buy pizza, and then reveals to Beth that she's been separated from her husband for several months. This revelation takes Beth aback, and she asks Ellie why she didn't inform her sooner. Ellie explains that she left Beth messages twice, but has yet to receive a response. Beth realizes her mistake and apologizes to her sister, but Ellie is still deeply hurt and angry. As the kids return with pizza, a massive earthquake strikes the area, leaving a sinkhole in the parking lot. When the ground finally stops shaking, Danny explores the hole and discovers an attic hidden inside. Among the debris, he notices several holy relics guarding specific items, including the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, also known as the Book of the Dead. Danny decides to take the book back to the apartment, believing that their mother can sell it. Bridget is against Danny's plan, arguing that their mother won't sell something he stole. However, Danny is determined. In addition to the book, he also grabs some of the vinyl records he finds in the attic. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Ellie is deeply concerned about her kids and almost goes off with her neighbor Gabriel to find them. However, the kids soon return, and Ellie embraces them tightly, feeling relieved that they are safe. Danny and Bridget enter the room, and while examining the book, Danny accidentally cuts his hand, spilling some of his blood on it. This causes the book to open, revealing horrifying pictures that scare Bridget. She quickly closes the book and tells Danny that she doesn't like it, insisting that he needs to put it back immediately. After Bridget leaves, Danny decides to play the records he found with the book. The recordings mention the book's terrible potential, as documented by priests who defied the church to study it, only to suffer dire consequences. Danny becomes fearful and tries to stop the record, but it continues to play. As he watches in terror, the pages of the book begin to turn on their own. Ellie returns to the elevator, carrying her belongings. A sinister force approaches their building, and just as she steps out of the elevator, Ellie is attacked by an invisible demon. The elevator begins to plummet, causing her to lose consciousness. When she finally regains consciousness, Ellie feels a sharp pain in her head and cries for help while attempting to escape. However, the unseen demon starts tormenting her, binding her with the elevator wires in a brutal manner. To add to the horror, the electricity suddenly cuts out. Bridget informs Beth that there's a power outage affecting only their building. Danny investigates the fuse box while Bridget lights candles. Meanwhile, Ellie arrives at the apartment. She goes into the kitchen, turns on the gas, and starts throwing eggs into a frying pan, some of which are filled with blood. Her family is horrified by this sight, and Beth tries to understand what is happening. Ellie begins behaving erratically, talking about tearing her children apart and climbing into them. Suddenly, Ellie starts vomiting violently and collapses on the floor. For a brief moment, the real Ellie reappears and informs Beth that a demon has abducted her, begging her to save her children. Danny and Beth try to take Ellie to the hospital, but discover that the elevator is malfunctioning. Beth turns to her neighbors, Gabriel and Mr. Fonda, for help. Mr. Fonda helps put Ellie to bed while he goes to seek help. Beth confesses her guilt about her relationship with Ellie to Gabriel. Suddenly, a voicemail from Ellie plays on Beth's phone, claiming that she is burning. When Beth looks back at Ellie, she sees a fly in her eye, and Ellie revives with a blink. Just then, the kids arrive and discover that their mother is still alive. Beth informs them that she is burning, so they try to place her in a bathtub filled with cold water. Suddenly, Ellie rolls her eyes and jumps back up against the wall, horrifying her family. Bridget quickly takes Cassie away, and almost immediately, Ellie crawls up the wall and lets out a piercing scream that Gabriel and Mr. Fonda hear outside the bathroom. Mirrors are smashed as a result, and Ellie falls silent for a moment before falling back into the bathtub. Soon after, she emerges from the bathtub, and when Danny calls for his mother, she responds that his mother is now with maggots. Next, Ellie emerges from the bathroom with a piece of glass shard and tries to attack Beth. During the struggle, the glass pierces Beth's hand as she defends herself. Bridget intervenes and pleads with her mother to stop, causing Ellie to redirect her aggression toward her daughter. She wounds Bridget's cheek with a tattoo pen and attempts to lick the blood, but Danny uses a chair to knock Ellie down, causing her to fall into a dark room. Gabriel arrives and Ellie quickly moves to attack him. Eventually, they both leave the apartment, and Ellie bites his eye out before throwing him down. Seeing this, Beth locks Ellie out, but Ellie continues to pound her head on the door. She calms down after a while, but Beth notices from the peephole that Ellie is now chasing Jake and mercilessly kills him. Gabriel suddenly stands up and begs for help. Mr. Fonda shoots Ellie with his gun, but she strikes him and severely mutilates him. Later, Bridget asks Danny if he believes their mother resembles the images in the book, but Danny shifts the blame, and a physical altercation between the two ensues. Beth intervenes to defuse the situation, and Danny says he wants to show her something. He presents the book and discloses all the details. Meanwhile, Bridget notices that her wound is changing color and becoming darker. She panics when black blood starts dripping from her face. She attempts to rinse it off but ends up vomiting an enormous swarm of insects. Meanwhile, Cassie hears her mother singing a song and follows the voice. Ellie persuades Cassie to unlock the door, and as soon as she does, Ellie grabs her by the throat. However, Beth and Danny come to her aid, and Beth manages to lock the door again. They soon hear noises coming from the kitchen, and when Beth walks inside, she sees Bridget huddled on the kitchen counter. She notices Bridget gnawing on a wine glass, who then laughs and spits in her face, causing Beth to stagger backward. Bridget crawls towards her and wounds her leg with a cheese grater, but Beth manages to knock her down. Bridget then attacks Cassie, unintentionally impaling herself with the sharp point of a rod, believing she is dead. Danny binds Bridget to the bed and feels guilty for being responsible for the entire disaster. Afterward, Danny presents Beth with the book and vinyl albums that he believes are the cause of the chaos. Beth isolates herself in a room to listen to the recordings. While listening, she hears the priest discussing how he had to eliminate his possessed colleagues, finding no other means to stop them except to dismember them entirely. Moments later, Bridget gets up and walks out of the room, intending to kill Cassie once and for all. Danny shoves Cassie to safety and tries to protect his sister by stabbing Bridget. But Bridget retaliates by taking out the knife and stabbing his hand. She then vomits blood all over his face, accusing him of ignoring her request to return the book. In a desperate attempt, Danny manages to set Bridget on fire, but he suffers severe injuries in the process. Meanwhile, Deadite Ellie sneaks into the apartment through the air vents and attacks Beth again. When Beth walks out of the room, she stumbles upon injured Danny and Cassie hiding beneath the table. Danny apologizes to Cassie before taking his last breath. While Ellie pins Beth down, she discovers that Beth is pregnant and nearly tears her apart. Luckily, Cassie manages to slide a pair of scissors towards Beth, allowing her to stab Ellie in the nose. Following this, Beth and Cassie make a desperate run to the elevator to flee the apartment. However, the elevator is broken and the stairs to the lower floor have collapsed. Beth snatches the shotgun from Mr. Fonda's grip. Ellie removes the scissors from her nose. Just when Beth is about to blow open the fire escape door, Ellie attacks them, prompting Beth to shoot her leg. Despite this, Ellie gets up and tells Cassie that Beth is trying to separate her from her mother. Cassie, however, insists that she knows the woman is no longer her mother. Beth shoots Ellie's arm off as well, but the dead neighbors rise as deadites. Unable to find a way out, Beth puts Cassie inside the elevator and gets confined there. The elevator begins to fill with blood, and all the deadites begin to emerge, with Ellie tearing through her limbs to form a hive body. The elevator becomes completely full of blood, and its weight leads it to tumble to the ground floor. As the blood-filled elevator doors open, Beth anxiously tries to wake unconscious Cassie and is relieved to see her alive. Luckily, Cassie had grabbed the car keys before rushing out of the apartment, so now the two try to escape by driving away. Moments later, the deadite arrives at the parking lot, and Beth realizes the car is stuck in the ground. The two manage to flee by crossing under the closing park gate, but the deadite drags Cassie with it. The deadite tries to sever Cassie's head with a chainsaw, but Beth intervenes just in time. It then turns its attention to Beth, attempting to grind her with a massive crusher attached to a construction vehicle. Fortunately, Cassie manages to save Beth just in time by turning off the machine. Amidst the chaos, Beth grabs the chainsaw and orders Cassie to restart the grinder. She slashes at the deadite until every piece of flesh is destroyed. Ellie's detached head tries to manipulate Beth, but knowing that her sister has passed away, she kicks it into the machine, instantly killing her. Now Cassie sobs over the death of her family, but Beth consoles her and leads her out of the building. The next day, we see another resident of the building, Jessica, whom we saw at the start of the movie, getting ready to leave for her vacation at the lake house. As she is about to drive away, she notices the traces of the previous night's tragedy in the parking lot. The demon then chooses her as the new host. The movie ends with Jessica screaming in terror as a mysterious entity attacks her. And with that, the movie ends. I hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for amazing videos. See you in the next one.